So today I'm here with Jay O'Hare of VengaCBD, and we're going to learn some more about CBD products as they're not available to every state. So let's hear what's on his mind. What's the motivation behind creating a product like this?
Well, I've been doing endurance sports for, I hate to admit it, but probably over 25 years now. Everything from cycling to running. I mean, my passion now is trail running and doing ultras. And I actually had an opportunity to go to work for a CBD manufacturing company to help out in terms of getting a lot of things organized with this company. And that was my first introduction into CBD about 3 years ago. And what I noticed was as I started taking CBD just to take it, just to see like how could that help me, what I noticed was that my recovery time was shorter. I wasn't as sore after long workouts. And I saw some really troubling things in the CBD industry in terms of like confusion amongst customers. Like they didn't quite know like what to buy or why they should buy certain things or how much to take. And so to me, when I saw that, like, knowing being an endurance athlete, like we know that that inflammation is such an issue for us, that's the thing that we're trying to fight like all the time. Like when we do these long runs or these big workouts and we pound our body like that, things get inflamed. And so because CBD is such a phenomenal anti-inflammatory, and we'll probably get into that here in a little bit as to what it's about, I just felt that it would be really interesting and could be super beneficial to develop a line of products specifically for athletes, endurance athletes, to help them with their training, racing, and recovery. And then do it in a way that's like very, very simple for people to understand, because what I saw was that so many people are confused, a lot of confusion in terms of the difference between different types of CBD, what they should take. So our mission is our tagline is right here is endurance for life. And as a trail runner and an ultra runner, I want to be able to do this forever. And I know that many other endurance athletes want to be able to do it forever as well. And part of that is being able to take care of our bodies. It's being able to deal with the inflammation and the injuries and the different types of things that happen as a result of being an endurance athlete. So that was really the inspiration for starting the company.
Okay. Now, my mom and brother, they swear by CBD oil, and that's where I got my first introduction with it. When my brother was living in Colorado Springs, he would mail me some packages periodically, and one of them had CBD oil in it. He's like, it's kind of a crapshoot, though, when it comes to quality. He's like, it works sometimes it doesn't. What kind of quality control measures do you have to kind of maintain its effectiveness of your product?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it is true. And their quality control is certainly one aspect. Another aspect is going to be the fact that all crops are different. All plants are going to be different. So what that means is that the concentration of the CBD oil is going to vary from batch to batch. So we actually have a technique in our manufacturing facility that makes sure that everything is standardized and that everything comes out very, very precise. That was one of the main reasons why, and we'll get into a couple things here in a minute, but one of the main reasons why, for example, we don't use the tinctures. A lot of people see it where you got the dropper and you put the dropper under, you put it under your tongue and you hold it. Because from an athlete standpoint, that's a very imprecise way of taking CBD. You don't quite know how much you're getting. You're kind of guessing when you're looking at it, and you kind of eyeball it and kind of hope that you're not quite sure like what that really means. So with ours, we have soft gels, and they're very precise. Each one has 25 milligrams of CBD in it. So we know how much we're taking exactly. We also add in 10 milligrams of curcumin, which is another anti-inflammatory. So quality control is a big deal. The second piece of that is lab reports and testing. So all of our products, for example, are THC free, and we could talk a little bit about what that means for athletes and that. But making sure that whoever you're getting your CBD from, that you can actually see the lab reports. And that's one of the difficult things if you're buying in a retail, like a grocery store or something like that. It's kind of tough because you pick something up off the shelf and you're not quite sure, you know, what's actually in it to be able to see the lab report for that exact batch. So we make sure that all of our lab reports are available. People can look at them. They're not super hard to read. They're pretty self-explanatory, and because there's only a few components in there, you can tell pretty quickly. But you want to look at things like, you know, what's the composition of the hemp oil that's in there, the hemp extract rather that's in there. You know, how much CBD does it have? Does it have any other cannabinoids, anything else? And then we also want to look at things like metals and pesticides and see what the levels are on those. And all of those should be in a non-detectable range. And so if you're dealing with a great company, they're going to show you and say, hey, here are the lab reports. They're easy to find. You can look on the bottom of your container. There's usually a lot number, like with ours, there'd be a lot number on the bottom, and you can look that up and see that this lot matches that lab report. So that's a big one there. So those are two areas in terms of quality, and again, the variability in terms of like crops, and making sure that the manufacturing process takes that into account as it's making the product.
Now, from my basic knowledge of drugs, that marijuana and hemp are still Schedule 1. Does that mean you haven't been able to do any kind of FDA trials with your product?
Well, so actually hemp is no longer Schedule 1. Hemp is actually now federally legal. There can be some state variances on that, but in terms of the federal level, the 2018 Farm Bill made hemp federally legal. And that's opened up a lot of really great things. So, for example, it's allowed farmers now to get crop insurance if they're going to be growing crops. It's allowing universities and research organizations that receive money from the federal government to now be able to conduct studies on hemp, and so we can learn more about it. It also allows us to travel with CBD products and not have to worry about things being confiscated by the TSA. In fact, we were at a event just recently, and you know, one of our checked bags was a big bag of our inventory, and we got to the other end and opened it up, and sure enough, there was the TSA inspection slip in the bag because they randomly check bags. So hemp is federally legal. So that really has opened the door for us. And that also allows us to be able to do things like use the US mail to be able to ship and do things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you get your hemp from? Do they grow it in Colorado, or do you get it from California?
Yeah, so all of our products are created using hemp that's grown here in Colorado. And it's good to know that there actually are different qualities of hemp, if you will. So we have one strain of hemp is going to be called industrial hemp, and industrial hemp is used for things like making paper, textiles, rope, those kinds of things. The thing about industrial hemp is that it's a very the CBD that is extracted from industrial hemp is a very low quality CBD. In other words, it doesn't have all of the other supporting cannabinoids and terpenes and things that can help CBD work in the body. So ours is actually not only grown here in Colorado, and using organic farming practices. Be very skeptical if anybody says they have an organic product, because I believe there's only one organic hemp farm in the country, like actually truly certified organic. That's a very difficult certification to get. But we do use organic farming practices. But you have industrial hemp that's very low quality, and then we have what we call phytocannabinoid rich hemp, or PCR hemp. And the main difference is that PCR hemp has many, many more, about 10 times more what's called cannabinoids. And cannabinoids, we'll talk about this in a minute, but that's those are the elements of the hemp extract that help CBD work in the body. And so the more cannabinoids you have in PCR rich hemp or medical grade hemp, the better it's going to be, and the more effective it's going to be. So in terms of what your relatives may be using, depending on where they got it, you know, if they were using industrial hemp, which is easy to have happen because many, many companies out there are going the cheapest route, trying to just get something out there, keep their margins as high as possible using the cheapest product. And so they'll use things like, you know, industrial hemp-based CBD, and it's not as effective. That's probably more than you want to know about that. But I think it is important to understand that there are different levels of quality of hemp.
Now, according to my research, and I might butcher this word, terpenes are what cause the smell in marijuana. Now, with hemp, I'm assuming there's still some kind of smell. Like, how pungent is the aroma once it's extracted and turned into pill form?
Almost identical. You know, well, but let me back up. If you're taking the like the soft gels, the ultra gels like that we have, there's no smell at all. There's no taste. There's no smell. Like, it's totally fine. If you're using the tinctures where you've got the actual oil in the bottle, yes, it does. It smells like cannabis. You know, it smells like pot. It's not, but it does have a very, very similar smell.
Okay, so
Yeah.
CBD will not trigger any drug testing then?
Well, that's not true. That's not true. So again, and this is where it's like our focus, and one of our core tenets is to educate people. And so the hemp plant is very rich in CBD and has very low amounts of THC. The marijuana plant is the opposite. It's very high, very rich in THC, very high in THC. It's kind of funny, and much lower in CBD. So the reality is that in what we call a full spectrum product, which means everything from the hemp plant, that product will contain trace amounts of THC. Now, there are certain federal levels that says that this is legal if the THC is below a certain amount, but that amount is actually measured way upstream before you actually get the product. So the reality is, for people that are going to take CBD, is they need to understand that unless they take a product like ours or somebody else's, that if it's a full spectrum product, it will have THC in it. The products that we sell are what's called broad spectrum CBD. So it's not quite full spectrum, it's broad because we actually we use a liquid chromatography process to actually take out just the THC and leave everything else in. So when you look at our lab results, you'll see 0 THC. All of our products are 0 THC, so you will not fail a drug test. And so I think that's important for people to know. And on most websites, what you'll see, if it's a full spectrum product, in the questions about, will I fail a drug test? The answer is probably not. Most likely not. And that very well may be true, but a lot of it depends on how much you've taken, how recently, you know, the time period between when you took it and when you're getting the drug test, how your body metabolizes it. There's all kinds of things that, you know, you just can't predict. So if someone is in a situation where drug testing is an issue and THC is banned, I would not recommend a full spectrum product, just because the risk is just too high that you would test positive on that. I have heard of circumstances where people have tested positive. They've been able to go back and show that they were taking CBD and that's where it came from, and that might be the thing. But a lot of places just have zero tolerance policies. They're just like, sorry, you know, it's too bad. So again, ours is what's called a broad spectrum, and we use a liquid chromatography process to pull out just the THC and leave everything else in. So it's really the best of both worlds, because you're really getting the rich medical grade hemp CBD in your body, but you're not getting the THC.
So how much is too much?
That's a great question. So as far as we know right now, you cannot overdose on CBD. And I'm not advocating that anyone go out there and try to do that. But what studies have shown is that people are taking upwards of 600 to 800 milligrams a day, which to put that in perspective, like this bottle of 30 days with 30 ultra gels in it is 750 milligrams. So there are situations out there where people are taking a lot and having no adverse side effects. The one area just to in terms of, people also ask how much is too much. If you take too much, it's okay. Your body will just excrete it. But the other piece is, are there any other drug interactions that people should be aware of? And my advice is, if you're on any kind of drug, you should really check with your doctor first and just make sure what the what the guidance is that drugs that typically have adverse reactions with grapefruit, if you're told, like, you're on this drug, don't eat grapefruit because it interferes with how this drug is metabolized in the body, that would be an issue with CBD. So that's something to look out for there. Part of it, and again, part of this is because this is a plant-based, all-natural, substance that is working innately with a system in your body that is made for CBD. So CBD stands for cannabidiol, and it works with it's called a phytocannabinoid. So phyto meaning from plants, and it's a phytocannabinoid. We have in our bodies an endocannabinoid system, meaning within our body, endocannabinoid. So the phytocannabinoid is supporting the endocannabinoid system. So this is a system that we already have in our bodies. We don't have an ibuprofen system. We don't have an opioid system. We don't have those things, right? This is a system that we have in our body that this substance works directly with in concert.
So where is this metabolized? Is it in the intestines?
Yeah, so it depends on how you take it. And that's a very, very important question, because that question speaks to an important aspect of CBD in the industry, and that is that of what we call bioavailability. And that's basically a fancy word to say how much is actually available, bioavailability, how much is actually in the bloodstream to make a difference. And so CBD is an oil, CBD oil, and it gets metabolized through the intestines, in through the liver, and then gets out into the bloodstream. And the difficulty with CBD, because it's an oil, as all oils, things like when we look at stuff like turmeric, and we have other oils, is that it's very difficult to get a good amount of that actually in the body to make a difference. In fact, with a typical CBD oil, you're getting about between 10 and 15%. Only 10 to 15% actually makes it in the bloodstream to make a difference. And that's kind of a big deal. And so this goes back to, earlier when you said that, you've got some relatives that have been sending you things, and they're like, I don't know how much it's working. Well, you can imagine if someone's taking, 25 milligrams a day using the tincture, using the regular oil, they're really only getting maybe about 2.5 to 3.5 milligrams actually in their bloodstream, because everything else doesn't make it because it's an oil. And so we tackled this problem at Venga because, again, this was another issue that I saw in the industry of, like, people don't, CBD companies, they don't want to talk about this. They don't want to tell you that, like, look, you're only getting 10% into your bloodstream, because that's not a lot. And so what we did was we went down a different route and used a pretty expensive technology, and I'll show you the difference. So this is, if you can see that, This is a typical CBD product that we have dissolved in water to simulate like what CBD does in water, like the body, right? So you can see it does not, it does not dissolve in water. And so that is the issue. Well, this is Venga. And you can see this is completely dissolved in the water. And the reason is because we actually go in our manufacturing and create a water-soluble product using what's called a nano-emulsion technology, where we basically use a polysorbate emulsion that turns the CBD into tiny, tiny, tiny drops such that it can become water-soluble. The benefit of this, Eric, is that you're getting 85 to 90% bioavailability. So in this guy, you're getting about 10%, and in this, you're getting like 85 to 90% actually in your bloodstream to make a difference. And so for athletes, this is a big deal because you're really wanting to understand how is this affecting you, how is it working, and so you really want to know how much am I getting in my system. And just overall, like you want to get what you pay for. You know, you don't want to say like, hey, you know, excuse me, I've got expensive pee because the stuff that I'm using is not not water soluble. So that's a big one for people to be aware of. And again, it's more expensive to do it this way. This hemp is more expensive. It's more expensive to take the THC out, and it's more expensive to turn it into a water soluble product. But yet this is going to be what's the most effective for people.
So your guide says that CBD works to restore in each person the inner balance that's best for them. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So what happens is, if you, like, for example, if you read the side effects of ibuprofen, if you get into the details of like what the side effects of what ibuprofen does, there's a whole long list of side effects, because what ibuprofen is doing is it's going in the body to fix one thing, but it can break a whole lot of other stuff along the way. So that's where people can get things like, you know, bleeding stomachs and ulcers and all kinds of things that are side effects of ibuprofen. What CBD is doing is CBD is optimizing the endocannabinoid system in our body. And the endocannabinoid system is a neurotransmitter system that runs throughout our entire body. So it's not only going to help in terms of like the areas that need it, but that it's also going to help make sure that the endocannabinoid system is functioning at its peak in other areas of your body. So you don't have this problem where you're taking it to relieve the pain in your back, but now, you know, you're having all kinds of other issues. This is something that's going to, you would take it to relieve the pain in your back, and that your body is going to be better off overall because of it.
Now, it's also said that it improves metabolism, fat metabolism. That's kind of the opposite of how THC works, I mean, where they give it to cancer patients because they want them to gain weight and hold food down.
Yeah. And so, so in terms of actually how it works in terms of metabolism, I mean, there's a number of things that happen. One, it helps the gut. Your intestines work much more efficiently. In fact, there was just a study that came out regarding Crohn's disease that was done in part by Johns Hopkins and Vanderbilt University, and how CBD helped in terms of patients with Crohn's disease. So there are a number of benefits in terms of how it helps with metabolism.
So, have you done any kind of studies to show a control group versus your product to see how effective your recovery time is and how much quicker it would be versus without?
Yeah, that's a great question. We haven't really been in a position to be able to do that, but I can tell you some anecdotal information that we've gotten. So we've got a number of athletes who've been used. So we have a couple different things. One, we have an athlete who sent us her analysis of inflammation in her body before she started taking Venga and after she started taking Venga. And it was a huge, huge, dramatic decrease. I mean, she was so excited when she sent us this, and we were really happy to see that. So, I mean, there's one anecdotal piece. The second is we've got several athletes who use the athletic device called Whoop. It's these the bands that measure a number of different aspects of the body in terms of recovery. And they've sent us screenshots of their analysis of here's where I was before CBD in terms of, you know, my recovery level, and now it's gone way down, like in terms of that my recovery has been so much better. So we've got several of those. And then, you know, we have things like, you know, we go to events all the time, at least we did. And athlete after athlete would come up and we would sample, like, for example, our topical, our recovery balm. And they would, everything from plantar fasciitis to shin splints, knees, shoulders, back, whatever, give them a sample. And it just happened, Eric, nearly every single time. Like, they would walk away and in 3 minutes they'd walk back and say, I can't believe this. My shin splints are gone. My plantar fasciitis feels so much better. I can't believe how this helps my neck. I mean, it's pretty incredible that way. So, and then we also have just, you know, every day we're getting in testimonials from athletes who are talking about how this has really been a game changer for them, from injury recovery to overall training recovery, those types of things, sleep for sure. So yeah, like I say, we haven't really been in a position where we can conduct a controlled test like that. My sense is now that CBD is legal, that we're going to start seeing more of those tests coming about.
Okay, I'm going to hit you with some hard ones. What are your sales looking like now that we're in a, you know, COVID/recession time period? Have things fallen off? So
very interesting. We had about a 2-week period, the last half of March, things really did fall off. And then they bounced back in April. And in fact, April was up nearly 40% over March. May is looking to be up over April. So things have continued to be on an upward trend. And, you know, I think that I attribute that to a couple of different things. One is that, you know, pain does not have, is not affected by what's going on around us. Pain is still there. Pain is persistent. And so people are wanting to deal with that. I think that's one piece. The second is that people are concerned about their immune system and stress, and the fact that having a healthy, well-functioning endocannabinoid system puts your immune system in the best place possible to be able to fight off something like this. And then the third around stress. And, you know, CBD is for many, many people a major remedy for anxiety, stress, mental things. So, and I know for me, it's been big in that way. In fact, one of the very first aspects that I noticed when I started taking CBD was the mental side. And I started taking it because, like I said, I was going to work for this manufacturer, and I was like, well, I better start taking it. I didn't really have a reason to. And several weeks later, what I noticed was it was right around the holidays. It was like right around December 22nd, somewhere in that neighborhood. And what I noticed was that a lot of the things around the holidays that can typically be a stressful time in many cases, in terms of, you know, commitments and family and all these kinds of things and trying to juggle everything. What I noticed was that I was just totally calm. Like, I was like, wow, this is really strange. This is the first Christmas season that, like, it's been this calm. And I've done some experiments where I've gotten off CBD, and then, you know, you feel, you know, more of these type of anxiety type things can come back. So for a lot of people during this time, CBD can be a big help in dealing with a lot of the stressful situations of what we're going through.
Yeah, it is pretty stressful times right now.
Yeah.
Um, I see you've been planting trees for, was it each sale you make? Have you started your
Yeah.
own forest outside of your office?
Well, kind of. We're here in Steamboat Springs, and we could use some more. We have a lot of beetle kill up here for sure. But we actually partner with an organization called One Tree Planted. And so we give customers the option. There are several different places when they check out, they can choose where they want their tree planted. Listen, we all play and recreate in the forests, and if there's anything that we can do to help give back and help make the planet a little bit better, like that's what we're about. And the forests are a big one for us all in terms of endurance athletes. So when people check out, they can choose Colorado, Florida, Oregon, California, and British Columbia as a place to have their tree planted. And then we hand it off to One Tree Planted, our tree planting partner, and then they give us an indication that it's on the truck or on the way. And at that point, we send the customer a notification saying, hey, your tree is going to be planted soon. And the good news is that those guys are still out there doing that even during this time. So that still continues. And we've planted a lot of trees. I mean, things have been good. We want it to be a lot more for sure, but we're well on the way to. I think we're making a little bit of a dent.
Okay. So I'm going to give you these last few minutes to do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. You can ask me questions. They're all yours.
Well, thanks, Eric. And again, we have for endurance athletes, a lot of people would be saying, I think what I've seen happen in the evolution over the past year or so is that there has really been an explosion of CBD companies. And while it's been good in that it gives people like, okay, this is maybe a real thing and I should look into it, it then makes it very confusing because then people are like, I don't know whether I should trust this company or that company. They're all kind of saying the same thing. And I think that when people are doing their homework, just to look at things like bioavailability, how much are you getting in your bloodstream? That's a big one. Where does it come from? Do they have lab reports? Can you reach out and talk to somebody? We have live chat. We have an 800 phone number. Like we encourage people to call us and ask us questions. Do they do things to help customers, and are their testimonials real and things like that? Do they have people out there that might be like pro athletes that are using it that are vouching for the product? That's another good one too. And I think the big thing is that it doesn't have to be complicated for people. There's this trend to put CBD in every single product you could ever imagine, and it makes it very confusing. And when we started the company, we started with just 2 products. We started with one product that works from the outside. That's our recovery balm, and it's a topical that you put on things like a sore joint, neck, back, muscle, whatever. And it works super fast. It's great. And we started, and this works on the inside. And this is basically same thing as a tincture, but it's in the ultra gel form or soft gel form rather. And it can be just as simple as this. We've got one more product that we just added that are gummies, and that's just a convenient way to take CBD on the go for things like as an ibuprofen replacement. And what we try to remember here as we go through this is that for many people, getting started using this, it can be a bit of an intimidating thing. You get the package in the mail and like, okay, how much do I take and what's going to happen and all that kind of stuff. And so we just try to do a really good job of holding people's hands, giving them the information. We've got a guide on our website. You've been referring to that. We wrote it. It's about a 60-page guide, Endurance Athlete's Guide to CBD. And it's written specifically to help people understand what it is, how to use it, how to get started, how it will help you in your training. And what we're seeing is so many athletes who have been sidelined because of injuries or because they're getting older and, you know, those PRs get harder and harder to repeat every year. You know, we're seeing people saying, hey, you know, I ran my favorite route of whatever, and I set a new PR, and my old PR was 4 years old. I've never done that. So we're seeing things like that quite a bit. And so again, I think education is a big one, and we're about really getting out the best products. They may not be the cheapest, but they actually are much, much cheaper when you look at how much gets in the bloodstream to make a difference. So I think that's a big one. And then of course, you know, does the company stand for something? And again, our focus 100% is endurance athletes. And so that's, you know, we consider an endurance athlete anyone who does a movement for an extended period of time. So that's hikers and climbers, obviously swimmers, triathletes. In fact, you know, we've got one of our pros that we've sponsored is, you might have heard of her, is Leslie Patterson. Mm-hmm. Leslie is a 3-time Xterra champion, Xterra world champion rather. And she had been taking CBD for a couple of years before we met her, and she started taking ours, and she's just like, oh my God, like this is completely different than anything I've ever taken. And we hear that over and over again. And again, I go back to the whole bioavailability piece that, you know, water solubility makes a big difference, and you really, really want to get what you're paying for. And so, you know, that's why I'm committed to, you know, being able to talk with athletes like yourself and others to be able to get the word out and educate people and just put out like a really good product.
All right. Well, I'm intrigued. Hey, thanks for
Awesome.
coming. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. Thanks for having me on. And, you know, if anybody has any questions or anything, you can hit us up. We're at VengaCBD.com. And, you know, and I don't know if you know this, Eric, but the word Venga, it's a Spanish term. And, you know, it means, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. And, you know, the inspiration is from, like, if you ever watch the Tour de France and they're in the Pyrenees, you'll see, you know, the mountain passes lined with Spaniards, and they're all yelling, Venga, 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 Venga. And so, so the name actually, you know, has something to do with the sport and what we do. So, it's all part of that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks again for coming on. We'll bring back another one. Let's put that here. So you're further away from Denver than I thought you were.
Yeah, we're 3 hours from 2.5 hours from Denver.
Have you ever listened to this podcast called Up and Vanished?
Up and Vanished with a V or a B?
V. Up and
V.
Vanished. Like poof, gone.
No, I have not.
Okay, so season 2 takes place in this, I don't want to call it a hippie commune, but you're close to this place. I forget what it's called. It's like, I think it's to the east of you. It's like an hour and a half from the nearest law enforcement, and it's just kind of everybody runs wild and does all kind of free-spirited crap, and they don't like even go by their real names.
Yeah, that would be the... Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Why?
It begins with a C, maybe.
What's that?
I think it begins with a C. I can't remember. Could be wrong.
It is called the let me see. It is called the Shambhala Mountain Center.
Hmm.
Is that right?
I don't know. I have to look at a map real quick. Let's pull it up. What made you want to, like, you're kind of far from, you know, most civilization. What made you pick Steamboat?
Well,
You hiding from the federal authorities?
Yeah, no, man. I moved to Vail, Colorado in 2000. In the middle of the .com boom, there actually was a e-commerce company in Vail, Colorado, and I went to work for them. And then my parents had a house here. We had a daughter, and housing was, houses were super reasonable in the 2004 timeframe, and so moved here, and it's a beautiful place to live. I mean, it's we've got a town. The town is about 13,000 people, probably about 35 in the whole county, 35,000 in the whole county. But it's got great schools. The trails here are amazing. The biking is amazing. Obviously there's good skiing in the winter and stuff like that, but it's just a beautiful place to live. And I mean, I love getting into the city and doing that, and that's all great. But I really like living out here, and it's a cool community. There are really good people here, amazing athletes for sure. Like I'm in a running group, and nearly everybody in that running group is, they're all for the most part ultra runners, and they've all done things like Western States and all the big ones. So like I get my ass kicked pretty good when we run, but it's a nice place to live for sure.
Okay, do you get a lot of snow there?
Yeah, we get about 400 inches a year. And so for most of the winter, this past winter was a long one, but for most of the winter, there's probably anywhere between 3 to 5 feet of snow in my backyard. But it's all gone now, and it's gorgeous out, beautiful out here. But yeah, we do get quite a bit of snow for sure. You gotta like that. I mean, to live out here, you have to like that. And I used to be a big snowboarder. I don't go up that much anymore just because I'm busy and I've got other things going on. I'd much rather run. So I just run on the roads during the winter, and then trails are open now. So I'm out on the trails just about every day.
Okay. Yeah, I'm used to still back in Ohio.
How do you think that interview was? Was that okay?
Great. It was great. By the way, the city's called Crestone.
Crestone. Let's see.
I mean, it is in what we call BFE.
Okay. I was just gonna see if it's near.
I'll pull it.
Crestone, Colorado. Let's see maps.
Near a big forest or mountains or something.
Crestone.
It's north of Great Sand Dunes National Park.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that's gonna be like way south of us. Yeah. Yeah. So that's way south. So we're a Steamboat. We're up in the north west part of Colorado. And those guys are more down towards the southeast part of Colorado. But yeah, I have not been to Crestone, but I'm certainly familiar with that whole area.
Okay.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of, it's a cool state. There's a lot of cool stuff here. And I don't know, have you ever spent any time out here?
No, I've never been out. Nope. I've never been to Colorado.
Yeah. Because what part of Georgia are you in?
Atlanta.
Okay. All right.
Right in the middle of Atlanta. Got it.
And how's all this been going for you? Just, personally, with everything that's been going on and all the quarantine and all that. Like, what's your experience been over the past 2 months?
It gets in your head after a while. Like, it's more complicated for me because I literally went through a breakup right before quarantine, and I didn't see anyone until I started running with my friend. And I don't know if he did it because he was bored or if he's like, dude, you need a friend. I've never asked and he's never told. But it's like, all right, I didn't see anybody, so it's running a screw in my head, and I wasn't. It made me not want to do any training, and life seems like cross between the movie Groundhog Day and the Netflix show Russian Doll. It's a cross between that, where I go to bed, I wake up in the same spot every day, start everything over, very little difference, and the next thing I know, it's it's Friday again, and I never knew what day it was to begin with.
Right. I
But
get that. I
I
get
wish,
that.
and part of the reason why it's my training hasn't really been happening is because I figure it's going to kill the whole season.
Oh yeah. 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 And it's like my buddy and I, we came up with, we're going to do, there's about 3 different runs. We're going to do a big run, end of June, end of July, end of August. Like there's just some really like long, like one of them be probably about 28 miles. The other ones are in the anywhere from 16 to 22-mile range. But, like putting things on the calendar to train for, so that, because the races aren't there, but we're just gonna do our own thing and say, I'm gonna train for this particular run and train for that particular run, because I think it's important to keep those types of goals out there and things to motivate you when you don't want to do the things. I think that's the hard part. It's like when you've got a race, that like you're committed and you're gonna fight through some of the resistance more than you would if you were like, yeah, there's no real reason for me to go out. And I found myself doing that last night. It was raining up until about 6:45, and sunset here is not till 8:15. And I was like, well, I'm not going to run. Well, at 6:45, it cleared up. And it's like, I found myself saying, well, it's too late, whereas if I had a race, I would have been like, no, let's get out there. Like this is go time now. So I get that.
Yeah, I'm very much a person that needs a carrot on a stick.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Is there anything else I can do or that? I'd love to shoot you a promo code if you want to try our stuff, man. So you can do that. It could certainly be helpful. I know you had a couple of other questions on there, like, could CBD help your situation?
Well, that's the thing. If you haven't done trials on a lot of stuff, then it's like it's an unknown thing,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. But we do have the topical, and the topical is pretty good. And this is like, sore wrist, sore back, different things like that. That can be a good one too. So at any rate, this is great, man. I'm glad we got a chance to connect. And what all do you have scheduled for the weekend? Anything big?
I almost didn't realize it was the weekend until I looked at the
Friday. Yeah.
No, nothing big. I'm going to attempt to train. I live by the Chattahoochee River, and in Atlanta, that is the flattest place you're going to get. That's why everybody runs there. It's in a floodplain.
Okay.
I might get out and run a little bit, but maybe ride my bike. It's probably going to be like in the 80s.
Okay. Yeah, things are starting to heat up a bit down there, I guess.
Yeah, the heat is bearable until you get to about August, which is kind of what screws people for if they actually race Chattanooga 70.3, they moved it to the middle of August. Chattanooga and Atlanta aren't really that different climate-wise, and that run is going to be hot and humid. So that's why I took the option to defer. I'm really hoping Ironman defers, even if they say we can do Ohio, which I looked at all the race directors. Part of one of the things I was going to write about was the new guidelines they gave out to race directors to host. It's just not possible. And I hope, if they're going to race it, I hope they give me the option to defer it, because I just don't feel safe going out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Social distance bike racks, you need at least 4 times the real estate to do that. I remember reading someone doing the calculations with a time trial swim start, because in a time trial swim start, I'm basically breathing down your neck. And now you're telling me we can't stand 2 by 2 and we can't go, right behind each other. You got to go 6 feet apart. That's going to be a very long line.
Wow. Yeah.
And think about, you can't space out that on it. Once you get to the actual run course, not everybody goes the same speed. So, it's just going to be packed. I don't think we're going to race until there's a vaccine.
Yeah. Wow. Oh,
man. The thing they were saying about the vaccines is, I can't remember if it was the WHO or the CDC, but they said we're going to need 650 million to 850 million syringes, and we only have 15 million in stock, and it will take at least 2 years to get that many syringes. So even if we do get a vaccine, we might not be able to administer it right away.
Yeah. That's the only part of the problem. Sure. Wow. Well, listen, man, I've got to jump, but I'm glad we got a chance to connect. And let me know, if anybody has questions, they reach out to you. I'm happy to chat with people.
Yeah, I'll let you know when I get this out here. It's going to take a while for me to get to editing because I have a couple other ones that are sitting, and plus I have a graphic design background, but I don't have a video editing, so I'm kind of learning as I go on the fly and just keep
nice.
up little things here and there.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, all right, buddy. Well, listen, man, stay safe over there, and again, thank you for reaching out. And by the way, tell me again, you had said somebody had talked about us or told you about us or something like that? Like you had a friend that gave you some, or was taking
one of our friends was in Colorado. I don't remember where they got it from, but they brought back some of your stuff.
Okay.
And this was, it was the lotion that they had.
Okay.
But it was sometime over the
summer of last year, maybe?
Yeah, over the winter.
Over the winter. Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay, great. Cool. All right. Well, listen, man, stay safe, and stay in touch, okay?
I will.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.